Munster have to rely on their bench and a debutant to scrape a win against the Dragons. My name's Mark. Let's talk rugby. Not a great performance from Munster in this one, but I think given their recent form, it's a case of a win is a win for them. Let's get into the game. So we have a very scrappy first 10 minutes before Wycherley gets pinged for hands on the ruck. Dragons point to the post. Angus O'Brien lands it in difficult conditions, 3 points to 0. And I thought, yeah, he was very good from the tee tonight and very good overall, I felt. But yeah, we got driving wind. There's rain there as well. But, you know, some of his kicks were really good. We then have a nice kick in behind into 22 from Butler, and Dragons with a difficult line out 10 metres from their own line, but they keep the composure, secure the line out, and then they kick it deep downfield with the wind behind their backs. Butler then kicks out in the full, having carried it back into his own 22. Decent position for the Dragons to go to the maul from the line out. Barham pinged for entry, and Dragons kick to the corner. Another penalty as Munster go early. Back to go to the corner. Munster really struggling to contain the maul, and Dragons go over. Coughlin the score, converted for 10 points to 0. We've actually got a Coughlin on both teams. The hooker for Dragons, and then at scrum half for Munster. Bettle then goes to the bin for taking Abrams out in the air at the restart. It goes to an off-field review, but thinking at the time, he definitely should be back on, and he is. Munster then making ground into 22. Sean Odogwu with some strong carries. They work it to 5 metres out, but Klein is holding on as Keddy gets over the ball. I thought Dragons are really good, competing at the breakdown. Dragons then attacking into 22. Munster's defence creaking, and Butler gets pinged for not rolling away. O'Brien makes 13 points to 0. We have then Bettle. He's back on from the bin. He managed to strip the ball around kind of the halfway line. They move it wide right and then kick him behind. And then a Dragons player wins the ball, or the race, to ground the ball. But we have a TMO review. There was a knee on the ground before the strip, so it's no try and a penalty to Munster. But really a lucky escape for Munster there, because if that strip had come, a split second earlier, it would have been a brilliant try and well deserved for Dragons. But it's one of those ones where you look at it and you think it's marginal, but at the same time, you absolutely know, had that try stood and the officials not spotted that knee on the ground, they would have been absolutely crucified, because that's the difference. I think people always think, oh, it's such a marginal call, why did they do that? But if they don't do it, you see why they're so vigilant on stuff like that now. Dragons then with hands on the ground. Munster go up the line to 10 metres out. They secure the line out. Dragons go early. Penalty advantage. Munster going nowhere. Back for the penalty. They go to the corner. They get an initial shove in the maul, but it's repelled then by the Dragons. They go to pick and drives, and Douglas is offside. Munster struggling to get over the line. Feels kind of like now or never as they tap the penalty. A couple of phases, and then Klein forces his way over, converted for 13 points to 7. We then have a great kick from Butler, and Dragons under pressure with a line out 5 metres out from their own line. They do well to get it off the field and outside of the 22. Dragons, no clear release then, and Munster kick to the corner. Another penalty as Coughlin collapses the maul. Back to the corner, to the maul again, but it goes down and the ball pops out the side. Rio Dyer then runs it out, and then they move it and they get into the Munster half before Munster are actually able to get over the ball and win a penalty. But it was really on for Dragons there, and they were kind of lucky for that. Then Munster kick really loosely like just an aimless kick down the middle of the field to Tinnis de Beer. He then puts up a bomb, gets held up in the wind, and that kind of confuses the Munster back three, who kind of hold off. But Tinnis de Beer comes onto it. He regathers, steps a tackler, and then puts Richards away and under the post. Convertible 20 points to 7. Then Ethan Coughlin with a great 50-22 right into the corner. Dragons, an early shove again from them. We have a TMO check as Gavin Coombs thinks that he's got the ball down to score. On field is a try, and there's no conclusive evidence to contradict that. You can see that initially when he goes to place the ball, he places it on a Dragons player's leg, but then he kind of drags it towards himself and the ball goes down, but you can't actually see whether it's grounded or not, or whether it's still being held up. But Holly Davison has already said that she's seen the ball grounded on the line. So because we don't have a view to say that it's been held up, obviously then the try stands. Conversion is missed, and it's 20 points to 12. Munster then they win a penalty in the scrum, and a big kick gives them a line out into 22. Credit to Ollie Yeager for that scrum penalty, because Dragons were on top in the scrum before Munster brought on the replacements. Dragons then go early, get a warning about that. Munster go to the corner. Munster get them all going forward, but again the Dragons, they're able to stop that maul once more, and the maul defence tonight was absolutely brilliant. Munster then moved the ball. Coombs with a good carry gets him on the front foot. Munster pounding away at the line. Dragons brilliant last ditch defence, but eventually Munster get over the line, and of course it is Gavin Coombs that does it. That's converted for 20 points to 19. Dragons then kick out on the full from a ball carried back into 22. Pressure from Munster is building. Nothing comes of that, but Munster keep the ball down that end of the field to get back into 22. Dragons offside, they call for the tee, and Butler slots it to put Munster ahead for the first time, 22 points to 20. Dragons then spreading the ball in their own half, and Coombs gets over it. Butler kicks to the corner, but kicks it dead. Munster, they were thinking, let's go for the bonus point try rather than potentially taking the points again. But that was, a big mistake from him. And then a scrum back for the Dragons. Dragons almost break the line in the middle of the field, but they knock on. Then Daly kicks a great 50-22 right into the corner. Dragons once again halt them all. Gleeson goes off the back. He stretches out, but he gets held up. Great defence from the Dragons yet again. And the game almost over at this stage. And then Abrams knocks on to drop out, and that's full time, 22 points to 20. And Munster just about getting there. Okay, so let's have a look at the stats, and then we will talk about each of the teams. So let me pull the stats up here on the official website. There we go. Just refresh it for the latest stats. Okay, so try scored 3-2. That's why Munster were kicking to the corner right there in the last few minutes, because they were looking for that bonus point try. I have to say though, it would have been a bit of a bit unfair on Dragons had Munster not only gotten a bonus point try, but also potentially denied the Dragons a losing bonus point, because they were well worth at least 1 point out of this game. Possession then 67-33. Offloads 1-2. Like the conditions, you're not going to be offloading the ball all that much, because all you're doing is inviting your teammate to knock the ball on. Meters gained then 298-229. Clean breaks, none for Munster, 5 for Dragons. And the reason behind that is because Dragons looked far more dangerous ball in hand. Munster looked clueless at times, honestly. Defenders beaten 8-19. Onto defence then, territory 71% to 29. And, a lot of that obviously going with the wind. In the first half, Dragons definitely had the better share of the territory, but, not as much as Munster had in that second half. Onto kicking then, kicks and play 24-22, and kick meters 597 to 665. So Munster averaging about 25 meters per kick, and the Dragons round about 30 meters per kick. So the Dragons, the ones going that little bit longer, and also getting more success, I felt, in their kicking game, and kicks retained shows that they shaded that as well. 5 for Munster and 6 for Dragons. Lineouts then, lineouts won 17 for Munster and 10 for Dragons. Munster going 100% in the lineout, and Dragons lost 1, so they're at 91%. But the lineout, the one set piece, I think that went better for Munster than the rest. I don't think it was perfect. Like, and a lot of their lineouts as well were kind of, little bit sloppy without actually kind of losing the lineout. Like, it wasn't, massively clean ball, and they weren't like getting into position. Whether it was, most of it was obviously trying to drive in the maul, but they weren't getting in position, in perfect unison. So definitely work on there. But given how bad their lineout was earlier on in the season, I think it's an improvement, but still there's more to come there. I think onto scrums then, 5 scrums won each, both at 100%, but definitely in the first half, the Dragons looking the better of the two teams in the scrum, and then second half then when the replacements come on, it swung to Munster. But for when we speaking about mauls as well, they don't have any stats on it here, but Dragons attacking maul brilliant, and defending the maul as well excellent. Now let's talk about each of the teams. Dragons, they've been on that resurgence lately, both in the URC and in the Challenge Cup. They've been racking up wins, and this was almost another one for them as well. Really good performance in that first half, and had that try been awarded where they'd stripped the ball, and Munster, on the back of that not being awarded, Munster ended up scoring a try up the other end. I think they would have had enough of a margin to go on and win the game, because Munster really struggled to hunt them down, even when it was 20 points to 7. Had it been, let's say 27 points to 7 or 27 points to 0 even, I don't think you're seeing Munster coming back from that point. So there's a lot of positives for them to take out of it, but still, it's still a defeat for them, but it's a losing bonus point. They showed great endeavour. They were easily the more dangerous team, ball in hand. Their kicking strategy, I thought, was excellent. Set piece was very good. We talked about the maul already, and their last defence on their line was brilliant. Like, only for Gavin Coombs. If Gavin Coombs hadn't been playing, I don't think Munster win that game, because Gavin Coombs is so special at being able to just find some way of getting that ball down on the line from close range, and he did it twice in this game, and I don't think Munster have another player who would have been able to do that. So Munster very lucky he was playing tonight, and maybe the Dragons a bit unfortunate for that, because you're thinking they probably would have won otherwise. But yeah, lots of positives to take away from this. A big performance away from home, and you feel like the Dragons, they've been on that run. They've got their wins. They've got a losing bonus point here as well. Being competitive, staying in the games. It's very important. It's very similar to the Scarlets last year, when the Scarlets made themselves very hard to beat, stayed in the contest for a lot of their games, and ended up picking up wins, when they were tight games. I think Dragons are kind of on a similar route to that. They obviously don't want to then follow up with the way Scarlets are this season, but if they can keep this up to the end of the season, there's going to be, no issues with them being anywhere near the bottom of the table. I don't think there could even be, a possible tilt at a playoff place for them. If they continue this form through to the end of the season. For Munster then, it's similar to a lot of the Munster story we've seen this year, which is that performance itself relatively poor, but they found a way to win. And at the end of the day, you want to win. You want to win rugby games most of all, right? But the thing is, we saw what happened to them over the Christmas period and through into the Champions Cup as well in January, is that you can only keep going so far when you're not performing particularly well, and at some point you have to hit a vein of form to keep a run going. They weren't able to do that. They had a dip in form, and they weren't able to win those close contests. They've done it now, but they know that you can't keep relying on things like that. You've got to be able to improve your form, improve your set piece. There's tons of stuff for them to work on the back of this game. But I will say that I thought that Sean Adogbu making his debut today, absolutely excellent. He won the player of the match, and that was well deserved. In that first half, he was the one player really giving them proper go forward. He was very aggressive. He didn't shy away in the line out either. Securing a lot of the lineouts for them too. Just brilliant from him. Then off the bench, I thought, obviously Gavin Coombs getting over for a couple of scores and giving them another outlet in terms of go forward. I thought second half, Gleeson was certainly better as well. Donahue, off the bench, had some impact as well. And I thought as well, Coughlin in the first half at 9, was decent. But I felt like he spent too much time kind of complaining to the referee about whatever the Dragons were doing at the breakdown. And yes, like as a halfback, they always complain about stuff like that. But I felt like he was just spending too much time with that and not just moving that ball, because it became very clear after maybe 10 or 15 minutes of the game that he was getting nothing out of that. So what's the point in doing it, right? Just get on with it. And if there's something there, the referee is going to blow it. So for me, I felt like when Paddy Patterson came on at 9, he certainly helped out in that respect. And he did just get on with the game and keep that flowing and just give a little bit more impetus in their attack, not as stilted, and especially when the forwards got rumbling. And talking about forwards rumbling, we talk about Coombs, Evan O'Connell as well coming on. In that second half, I thought he had a good impact off the bench. The front row as well, especially Ollie Jaeger coming on, turned around the scrum for them, and also good carries in the loose from there. And then Tacker Abrams always looks dangerous when he gets a little bit of space, but Munster, I feel they're not creating enough space for him to really shine, and that's something they definitely need to work on. There seems to be a lot of the systems not quite clicking at the minute, but again, they've got themselves a win. They're going to be happy with that, but they've got to they've got to kind of take a step forward beyond that. They've got to get to a point where it's not just a case of relying on one player coming off the bench and turning things around for you. They've got to be able to just have their systems creating opportunities for them, and at the minute that's not happening, and yet a lot of improvement to come from them.